Hey, Danny, Aaron Boone started his coaching career coaching the Yankees. I'm not happy about it.
Yeah. So are you happy about the Marcus? That's my thing. If there's a 0% shot, because the playoff committee said that they would take that into consideration.
I'm with you.
Oh, the coach? Yeah,
Like
I'm with
a
you.
coaching change. They're hiring a big hitter.
I'm with you.
And also, I'm just going to put this out here because I like to watch you guys' eyes roll. And then being the host, I get to decide that no one gets a rebuttal and I'm going to move on. I think they should be in the playoff because I don't really understand how you have 2 one-loss teams and one is to a playoff team and it was a close game. And the other is an utterly embarrassing loss to a one-loss team. I don't know. A little weird to me. I get it. Georgia's Georgia. Their defenses look great, but they've also beaten, I think, one ranked team. So I don't know.
I mean,
anyway.
Look who Notre Dame's beat. They got shit on by Cincinnati at home.
Hey, they did their best.
Beat Toledo by 3. They went to overtime.
Who we decided was one of the better 5-loss teams in the country.
By 10.
Well, it's the same. Yeah, no, it's the same thing. I get it. It's like it sucks that we're even in that position where we have to compare whose loss is better. But they have a better loss than Georgia. To me, neither one's really done anything impressive. Statistically, Georgia's defense has been great. Yeah. I get it. But I don't look at it that way. Like, I don't look at how many points do you hold people to. And I know that maybe sounds kind of dumb, but like you could have a team that wins by a ton. I don't know. It doesn't do it for me.
What's
but
next?
Hey, the beauty is we're going to play these games and we're going to figure it out. I'm going to skip the next one if you guys don't mind because does anyone want to talk about Michigan State and Pitt? I just don't care.
No, I don't care.
I could not care less about those two teams.
I hate the
Kenny Pickett. We're going to have to hear 75 times how he's just gritty and tough.
He's
and
not
blah, 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 blah. Oh, he opted out? Even better. They're going to
even better. All right,
cool. So moving on. Gosh, they botched this playoff. I mean, they just it up, and it really bothers me. Because
what would your playoff be, Max?
My playoff would have been 1 Alabama, 2 Michigan, 3 Cincinnati, 4 Georgia. I don't like that you get to get your ass kicked because it wasn't a close game.
They switched spots though. That's all they did.
They just
that's
switched.
My point. I think Georgia should have had to play Alabama again. I don't think that it's because again I go with most deserving. I don't go with best. So I don't think it's fair that Michigan is having the year that they're having, and then they go out there and absolutely pummel Iowa in their conference championship. Georgia got, and this isn't me being a homer, they got utterly embarrassed in that game. It was, you know what? I'm going to look this up. Someone filibuster for me because I have to know
I'll
what the win
I'll filibuster for you.
Filibuster, go.
You're going to see that rematch because this playoff
the national title game.
Exactly. It's going to be in the national title game.
Unless Cincinnati beats out.
Kicked out of them. Cincinnati's going to lose by infinity.
But
and there's no number
they shouldn't get it the easier, which frankly, both of them got the path. And by the way, I think Michigan has a very good chance of beating Georgia. I know a lot of people won't agree, but I believe that.
They gave the matchups to where Michigan matches up a lot better with Georgia.
Right. They gave Georgia and Alabama both the best possible route to the finals. And I think you shouldn't be nice to a team that got the utter shit kicked out of them the week before by another team. Why is this internal error coming on? It makes no sense to me.
I mean, Alabama should have lost to Auburn. They could have lost to Arkansas. Could have lost to Tennessee. Like I understand.
Sure, and you know what? I'll be honest. There's a part of me, and I think I said this that night, but I kind of acquiesced. It was like, yeah. I'll take it back. I would have done Michigan 1, Alabama 2, because here's why. A, Michigan was equally, if not more impressive in their conference championship game. And 2, their losses better. They lost to a top 10 Michigan State team. Alabama lost to
But how did they lose, though?
By like 3 points? Or...
No, but like, weren't they up by like 2, 3, like 17 points, and then they blew that entire... That matters, though.
No, it doesn't.
Michigan State's not a good team.
Neither is Texas A&M.
Texas A&M's a better team than Michigan State.
Maybe.
Yeah, I agree.
But Alabama also got dominated the whole game versus Michigan State having to make a huge comeback. So it's like, you look at, how they lost. They lost to teams that I'll give you, maybe they're a little better, but are like objectively very, very similar. Except, one has a much better record. And I just don't understand why Michigan, again, peaking at the right time. Also, who's Alabama's best win? Georgia?
Yeah, probably.
I assume. Okay. Who's their second best win?
Miami, baby, to you.
Okay. But then you look at that, and I think that is a less attractive top 2 wins than when you look at Michigan.
That was not their second best win. That was a joke.
But who was it?
Max,
Arkansas?
I'll say that.
Who they beat by 7?
This,
Florida, who they beat by 2?
Ole Miss?
Max.
Ole Miss, maybe?
Let me say this to your point earlier. There is a reason it's Alabama-Cincinnati. It's important that they did it that way, actually. I'll tell you why. If you're going to let a G5 team into the playoff, you're going to nip that right the hell in the bud game 1. This will never happen again in a 14 playoff.
But Michigan would have done the same thing, I think, to Cincinnati.
Yeah, I don't think they would have.
Honestly. No. You guys don't think
Michigan might compete with Alabama, but the athletes that Alabama has is I 100% agree with that. The committee did it so they could say.
Yeah, for once, I'm actually agreeing with Dave.
They are.
I hate to say that.
I'm going to somehow talk myself into taking Cincinnati with the points.
Me too.
But I just that game has the potential to get ugly.
But I agree. But I think Cincinnati loses by at least 21 to Alabama, Michigan, and Georgia.
No,
I don't think they can keep it within 21 of any of those.
They could beat Michigan.
I legitimately think the same thing. I'm not as impressed by the 42-3 in Iowa because I know it's a lot of points, but Iowa's horrible.
Iowa's bad. And Iowa missed 2 field goals in like the first quarter, and I think that just deflated the shit out of them.
Yeah. I mean, they were the flukiest number 2 team in the world, but that's their second best win. All right, you can't deny the fact that they dominated Ohio State, who we've all agreed is a very, very good team. So that's why I think their best win is up on par with Alabama's best win, and I think their second best win is a lot better than Alabama's second best win. So to me, I think there's a number 1 argument, but even if you don't do the number 1 argument, I think you have to put Georgia at 4 simply on principle because they had their opportunity. They had their playoff game, and they didn't just lose. They got absolutely embarrassed, and it was just an ugly,
the now number 1 team.
To a team that also proved that they can lose to a 4-loss Texas A&M and barely beat Auburn the week before, who sucks. It doesn't mean Alabama's not great. It means that Alabama has their deficiencies, and they have one of the worst offensive lines they've had since Nick Saban took over coaching. And Georgia looked like a middle school team out there with their ability to move.
Because Alabama's line's not middle school.
I said Georgia looked like they were in middle school.
Yeah, but you said it was one of Nick Saban's worst offensive lines.
Which is probably still, honestly, if we're being Nick Saban's worst, is still like
better than everyone else.
Agreed, but they still, again, have had – and again,
top 5 pick at left tackle.
We have 2 teams. Okay, with a combined 10 losses, all right? And you had how many losses does Arkansas have? 4? You have 3 teams with a combined 14 losses, okay, that Nick Saban beat by a combined 9 points. And when you subtract the loss to Texas A&M, how many did they lose by? I accidentally exited their schedule. Sorry.
They lost by 5.
Okay. So they are a net plus 4 against 3 teams with a combined 14 losses. That's not an impressive resume. And again, I'm a most deserving, not a best. Okay. That's all I'm saying. So I think there's an argument for Michigan to be number 1.
So
it doesn't mean they should be.
Just so I'm right here, I wanted to pull up my stats to make sure. What's more impressive, those wins by Alabama or Michigan beating Rutgers at home by 7? Or beating Nebraska
Rutgers
by
is one
3?
of the toughest stadiums to play in the state of New Jersey.
No, they played at Michigan.
It was at home.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
Well, okay.
And they lost to Michigan State.
Bama.
They should have lost to Penn State. They got outplayed that whole
All right, those are good points. Let's move on.
They barely beat Nebraska by 3.
Because here's the thing. If you're going to get slipped in on a technicality that, like, you were the best all year, but you weren't,
Well,
whatever.
You brought up 3 games.
You
brought up 3 games.
You're right. Okay,
we're always going to examine the resume.
That's a valid
Penn State by
reputation.
4, Rutgers by 7, and Nebraska by 3. That's 3 games.
I did not know they barely.
I said it's a valid reputation. I'm with you. I got you. That's a valid reputation.
I'd have Michigan out of the playoff now.
But listen, no, stop.
Thank you.
I'm not going that far.
Here's the thing. I do think this argument is proof that I'm not saying they should be, but it wouldn't have been totally outlandish to put Michigan at 1. It could have happened.
Let's pick the game.
I still don't think it's fair to say. Here's what I think. Let me put it this way because I think I'll phrase it better. To me, Michigan and Alabama are the 2 most deserving teams to be in the playoff. Of all the teams in the
Georgia.
country, they're the most deserving.
No, Cincinnati.
How is Georgia? Cincinnati. Okay,
they're undefeated. They have the best win out of that whole group.
By your deserving standard, they haven't lost a game at all.
That's actually that's a good point.
Their 4 biggest games, they've covered the spread by an average of like 18 points.
Yeah, but they also, they turned
it on after those 3 weeks that me and you were like, wow, they suck now.
I know, but it's the group of 5, and I will give them a ton of credit for that Notre Dame game. I really will, but
I won't.
There's a difference between having to play in the SEC and the Big Ten week in and week out, and then having to step up for 2 or 3 games. It's just a different. It's a different vibe.
Michigan played. Michigan played 2 ranked teams all year.
Sure, but they're
Iowa.
How many ranked teams did Georgia and Alabama play all year? 3 each?
We're not comparing the Big Ten and SEC. We're comparing the American and the Big Ten.
Right, but the floor is still higher. The floor is still higher in the SEC and the Big Ten, and everyone knows that. That's just common knowledge. It is a harder schedule week in and week out, top to bottom.
SEC?
Playing in the SEC or the Big Ten.
The group of 500, who everyone. Don't even get me started on that. We're getting off topic. Let's get back on it.
Let's pick these games. I'm genuinely curious to hear against the spread who we're all picking here now.
I am. All right. Well, we're going to start with the match of the evening. Alabama, Cincinnati, number 1, number 4. What's the spread, Dan?
Last I saw 13.5.
It's 13 now.
Who's the favorite?
Cincinnati.
Because the way Danny's talking, it's kind of unclear.
58-9. 58-9.
I don't know if Cincinnati puts up 58, but yeah.
I got a better idea. It's got to happen in one game. Every single year in the playoffs, one team's lost by at least 30. Which team loses by 30 this year?
Really?
Cincy.
Yeah.
Michigan.
Cincy.
Every year in the playoffs.
No, Georgia doesn't score that much. Georgia's not going to
It can happen in the finals.
I don't think Michigan's going to score at the point.
It'll be like 13-0.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a 20. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a 27-3 kind of game for Michigan.
Yeah, so let's do some actual analysis here. That is going to be the big issue.
Wait, is that actually a stat max? There's been a 30-point game in every playoff?
Yeah, I believe so. Or maybe 25. It's 25.
We lost Oregon by quite a few.
We started that.
So we lost a ton. The next year, the next year, Michigan State lost by 30. They lost 33-3.
Notre Dame lose by like 30 a couple times.
Twice.
Yeah, by the way, I don't know. Little Florida State news. Kamari Wilson tweeted the little spear emoji.
He's not coming here. He's going to Georgia.
Shish kebab.
He's going to Georgia.
I was just trying to get the vibes up here, bud. Get my heart rate down talking about my Bearcats.
My vibes are good. Since he's going to get blown out, I can't wait for this. I'm so
pumped. Said the same last year, and they said the same shit last year and lost by 3 points.
It was
playing Bama.
The next year, Alabama beat Michigan State 38-0. The next year, Clemson beat Ohio State 31-0. The next year, okay, there's 1 year it didn't happen. But Alabama beat Clemson 24-6. So I mean, I feel like that kind of counts.
That's kind of the same thing. I mean, that game was bad.
That's pretty bad.
And then then the next year, Clemson beat Notre Dame. Dude, that 2019 Clemson team doesn't get enough credit, or 2018 Clemson team doesn't get enough credit. They beat Notre Dame 30-3, and then they went on to beat Alabama 44-16.
Yeah.
God, I remember that game started with the pick six, and then just turned into a butt fucking. And then the next year, I forgot about that. Next year, LSU beat Oklahoma 63-28.
Yep, no, I remember.
There's been an embarrassment in every year.
Then last year was Alabama. 28 points, 52-24 against Ohio State.
And Ohio State was 49-28.
Who are we all
so there's been an embarrassment. There's been an embarrassment, right? Cincinnati is probably the easiest pick for an embarrassment, but anyway, what I was going to say is the way you beat Michigan or you beat Georgia is very simple. Ohio State gave us the playbook. You spread them out, and they don't seem. I don't know if it's they don't have the speed. I don't know if it's their scheme is not built for it. But if those defensive linemen can't get home, and you're able to throw to the perimeter a lot, it's a winning formula. I don't think Michigan can do that. So if Michigan's going to try to, what did their running back run for against Ohio State? 5 touchdowns?
Something like that.
You're not running for 5 touchdowns.
Against Georgia, right.
And by the way, I want to get a clean slate. I don't want anything of what I say about the head-to-head to be used against me and what I'm saying about who I think deserves to be in different seating spots, because when they play the games, I'm talking best, not most deserving. If your game plan is to run up the middle and to run off tackle and to try to run for 5 touchdowns, That will not happen against Georgia. That being said, I think Michigan's defense is very good. And I don't think Stetson Bennett is any good at football. James Cook is very good. He can run the ball a little bit, but Michigan can also stop the run pretty well. So I honestly think we may see the most boring playoff game in history, and it will be reminiscent of the Clemson-Georgia game at the beginning of the year. It's kind of how I see this one going.
Max, on that Michigan-Georgia game, let me give you a hot prediction here. Georgia's defense will score more than Michigan's offense.
That goes to my point. Max, do you remember who the head coach is for Michigan State right now?
Michigan State?
Mel Tucker?
Yeah.
Who did Mel Tucker coach under before he got the head coaching job?
At Georgia.
No. He was with Nick Saban on that staff first.
I don't know. Make your point.
Mel Tucker and Kirby Smart both worked together, I think, for several years under Nick Saban. It's a known fact that Saban assistants kind of like call each other very cliquey. They talk to each other a lot. Who did Michigan lose to in their own game this year?
Michigan State.
So,
I like where you're going with this, Drake.
That's just such a strange way to get there. Yeah, I get it. I don't.
It's a strange way, but I like that.
I see where you're going.
What's the spread on? What's the spread?
SSO is 7.
Wow, that high.
It's 8.5 for Georgia, and quite honestly, I legitimately think Cade McNamara will throw a pick or two because he did that against Michigan State. All Kirby has to do is watch that game, call up Mel, get the blueprint to beat them out. Because also, I don't think Cade McNamara is even the best quarterback on Michigan's roster. It's J.J. McCarthy, the kid that literally, you see him in the game the other day where he ran down block for a touchdown. So to me, Georgia, they might only score 20 points. That's more than enough because Michigan might not score more than a field goal today. So,
when did they play? What week? Michigan State.
It's like week 8, isn't it?
Probably like week 7, maybe.
7, 8, 9. Somewhere in there.
Let me see.
So,
1, 2,
heard it
3,
here.
4, 5, 8. Week 8.
Max, are you on Michigan?
You guys talk and then I'll decide.
We can all agree that it's going to be You're going Michigan? Wait,
Michigan.
Spread or money line?
It wasn't week
okay.
8.
Georgia Bama rematch. This is I hate how boring this is, but that's exactly what's going to happen. And Georgia's going to win that game too. Georgia's going to win
the year. Neither of them make it. This is the year.
Cincy's going to lose by so much, though. I'm going to love every touchdown they get scored against them. It's just going to bring joy to my life. My heart.
Why do you hate? You just hate Group of 5 teams, right?
I do. Yeah. I
agree with you on that. Like, this is a perfect. Hey, put Cincy, who everyone thinks is the best Power 5 team. Everyone's talking about that Georgia.
Okay, this is what I was trying to get to. All right. Let me come back in. Sorry, this was an argument where I didn't want to give people the typical Max where I just talk with emotion. I wanted to talk with facts. Calling Michigan State to get the blueprint to beat Michigan would be utterly and completely useless because while they won the game, the post-game win expectancy was 70% Michigan.
That's a made-up stat.
When you look at the win probability, until the last 2.5 minutes, it was over 75% for Michigan. I get that their stats and that look, and that's why I said it's the same thing we talked about with UTSA where it's like, yeah, they were never really in danger probability-wise of losing that game, but they could have scored a last-minute touchdown. Michigan played a better football game. There is a reason, as flawed as rankings can be, that I don't think Michigan State ever got over Michigan in the rankings because Michigan played a better football game. If they play the exact same way in this game and one thing breaks the other way, you got to win there. I don't know if I take Michigan money line. 8.5, I like that.
Yeah, I'm going to be on a plus 8.5.
Yeah, I don't like Georgia's offense to beat
kick,
anyone by 8.5. I mean, like, dude, I frankly, I think Michigan's one of the most slept on teams this year. Do they make it to the finals?
Does this game kick at noon or 1?
7:30.
7:30.
This is the late one?
Yeah. So
it's in Miami, so it's going to be hot and muggy.
Look, we are all over the board here, guys.
Yeah.
I want to go get my food. This has been a good conversation. Let's get to our final picks of the episode. Alabama, Cincinnati. This one's going to be short. Does anyone have any reason why Cincinnati might win this game?
Oh, for sake.
Put your hand down.
No.
Just come on. I legitimately want to hear this.
It's adorable.
Yeah, you guys gonna let me go?
Yeah.
Okay, so Drake, I know how much you love Cincinnati's corners, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Sauce Gardner, great nickname.
Yep. So no matter where they put Jameson Williamson, one of their corners is going to be on that side. They don't need to change their defensive scheme. They don't need to have Sauce Gardner. They can have Kobe follow him. They can stay on the same side. They're going to be able to stay into it. Mechie is out.
Mm-hmm.
To Max's point, he thinks Alabama's line's not as good as it typically is. And it might not be an Alabama line. It's still a good offensive line. But Cincinnati, when you look, we talked about this in the conference title game. Every game that they've needed to play, they have played. And they've played very well. I'm not saying I'm taking the 13. I'm not saying they're going to win. But when you're saying, give me a reason why, their running back transferred from Alabama. He had the talent to be there. Desmond Ritter's a 4-year starter. Do I truly think they're going to win? No. Do I hope they win so I can cash my plus 4,500 on them on the national title? Yes. But
Danny, I hear you. I'm going to say this. You're going to see Bama's backup quarterback in the fourth quarter, maybe the whole fourth quarter. It's going to be that lopsided.
Listen, it could be. And I agree. It very well could get ugly. And for the reason you talked about with a group of 5, I sort of wanted to get ugly. So that conversation's done because I'm sick of it. But if there's a team to go in there and try it against an Alabama team that has struggled, I'll roll the dice.
Did you see Bryce Young's stats, by the way? I never realized this till now. That he had 4,300 yards, 43 touchdowns, and 4 picks.
Yeah, it's disgusting. Dude, I didn't
really
notice
good.
how good they were until I live in Pittsburgh, and people were telling me about how Kenny Pickett should win the Heisman. I'm just like,
nah.
Wait a second here.
Oh, my God.
Let's pump the brakes.
Impressive.
And then I looked at the stats, and I was like.
So that's the thing with that is I think it sucks for Bryce Young that he won the Heisman because it's such a typical talking point of like, well, of course, the quarterback from Alabama, they just give him the Heisman. It's like, first of all, an Alabama quarterback I don't think has ever won the Heisman.
Never won a Heisman.
No.
They've been to the finals several times, but Bryce Young, I think most Heisman voters are very conscious of that fact. Because remember, the Heisman voters, like Corey Clark at War Chant has a Heisman vote. The guy, Brandon Shaw, something like that I listened to on Athlon, he gets a Heisman vote. It's very, no offense to those guys, random. Like, it's just random journalists all over the place. So I think a lot of them are very conscious of not wanting to just say, oh, this is the best quarterback on it, or this is the quarterback for Alabama, So I think that's why Tua didn't get it. Frankly, I think that's probably why Trevor Lawrence never won it, because it was sexier to pick an Oklahoma quarterback because Oklahoma wasn't going to win a championship. So the fact that he won it, I think, tells me it was definitely stat-based. And then you look at the kid's numbers, and he had a shitty game against Auburn, but he's a damn good quarterback. And frankly, with any other quarterback, I don't know if they even beat Auburn, and we're not even talking about Alabama being in the playoffs. So, yeah, that kid's damn good at football. And
national championship picks?
Yeah. So, we got our national championship lined up. I think for me, it's Alabama, Michigan. I think is anyone else taking Alabama, Michigan, or is the rest Alabama, Georgia? All right. So we got 2 Alabama, Michigan, 2 Alabama, Georgia.
Oh, yeah. Alabama, Georgia.
I didn't see when your hand went up. Sorry. What do you guys think?
No, I'm not. I'm going to have some balls, and I'm not going to be boring.
Don't say Cincinnati in the national.
Cincinnati, Michigan.
Oh, Christ. We're going to edit that out.
No, we're not. Because Mechie, who's not playing, has 96 catches for 1,200 yards and 8 touchdowns. Alabama's next receiver behind him has 32 catches for 300 yards.
Alabama's walk-on receivers are better than Cincinnati's receivers.
Oh, really? Then why is their best receiver a transfer from Ohio State?
Yeah, you got to, Jave, you got to drop this whole Cincinnati doesn't have talent.
It's a group,
a talented team. It doesn't matter.
Dave, the same Cincinnati team that you thought was going to get blown out last year by Georgia lost by 3 points
on a last-second field goal. However, Georgia had a lot of holdouts.
You don't like them. I get it.
I don't like the intellectual
dishonesty of that's not dishonesty.
So are a lot of Cincinnati's. I think
Slade Bolden was not a 4
receivers were all 4 stars.
Who was?
Slade Bolton.
He's a 3-star.
Can you name a receiver on Cincinnati? Anyone?
All right.
Dave's point is getting stronger by the minute. Michael Young Jr., Trey Tucker, Jordan Jones. Jesus, Tyler Scott. Oh my God.
Alec Pierce. Alec?
Yeah.
Okay, Dave's
Alec
point
is good.
Dave's point is getting really strong right now. This point. Look at this man just sinking his chair.
Yo, their running back was at Alabama.
So they're all right. So Michael Young Jr. was a 3-star who started at Notre Dame.
What was Jerome
the same
Ford?
as Alabama's 3-star that I guess just didn't transfer. Who else, Drake?
What was Jerome Ford?
Jerome Ford was a 8909 4-star from Armwood High School.
Boom, that's their
running. Oh, that's Warren Thompson.
He went to Bama before Cincy.
But who does he play for?
The sloppy seconds.
Who does he play for?
We took Jermaine Johnson, bro. You see how good he was in sloppy seconds?
I'm going hot take. My playoff prediction official for the Bowl Spectacular.
Cincy, Michigan.
I switched it again. Rematch of last year's Sugar Bowl. Cincinnati, Georgia. This year, Cincinnati walks it up with a field goal win. Who's next?
Yeah, I'll go next. I think Alabama wins the national championship, and I think Michigan gives them a run for their money. And I think it is a very entertaining game with not a very high score line. You can have really boring 21-14s, or you can have really exciting 24-21s. I think it's a 24-21, and I think that you see a clash of styles. I think Michigan legitimately has more speed in their back seven than Georgia does and is able to kind of stuff some of those spread concepts that Alabama used to really pick apart Georgia. I think Georgia's defense actually, and I know I'm going to get so much for this, so just spare me with you guys at least. I think it's relatively one-dimensional. I think they are a D-line that can slam you up the middle, and they're linebackers that can keep you off the middle of the field. But Alabama showed if you can get in space against Georgia, what are you looking at that face for? They scored 42 points on them by doing very, very simple things. There was nothing tricky. They just negated the D-line, and they stopped the linebackers from protecting the middle of the field. Once you do that to them, problem solved. I don't think Michigan can do that well. But I also think that Michigan can defend against what Alabama is going to try to do a little bit better than Georgia could. And you probably have a pretty close game, and it's a bit of a knife fight. Either way, all these arguments aside, I'm going to take a hot take here and say I think this may be the first playoff where no one gets utterly embarrassed. If someone does, it'll be Cincinnati. But I think we could actually have 3 pretty good games here.
Drake, you on next?
I'll go last. I got to think of mine. Okay, actually.
I think you know what I'm going to say. It's going to be Bama, Georgia, and it's going to be embarrassing for the teams that are left in the wayside for those two teams to get there. I don't think you do to a defense as good as Georgia's twice what Alabama did to them the first time. I don't think they can replicate that performance. It's really difficult to play a top defense and embarrass them twice. Mm-hmm. I think you'll see a much closer game. And as much as it pains me to say this because I don't think Georgia's offense is good, they have the worst quarterback in the playoff, and I don't like Desmond Ridder, and I don't like Michigan's quarterback. But I do think Georgia wins their first national championship since the Model T came out for Ford.
Do you think Dan Lanning leaving has any impact?
No, I think it's Kirby Smart's defense. I don't think so. I think it's Kirby Smart's defense, and I think
I was leaning that way, but I wasn't sure what your thoughts were.
I think Oregon's going to learn the hard way that Dan Lanning had a lot less to do with what Georgia's done this year and in the past than a lot of people seem to believe.
Isn't he only like 36?
35.
Yeah, he's young.
Like 3 years. He was on Norvell's staff as a freaking inside linebacker coach.
That's why I had you go first, Dave, because I think we have kind of the same exact thing. I actually do have Alabama and Georgia. I think Alabama's going to win a close game against Cincinnati, and I think it's going to take a lot out of them, actually, because this is going to be the one and only shot a group of 5 team actually probably has to make a statement, and they're going to take that to heart. Alabama might be looking forward a little bit more to the Georgia game because that's a rematch, and I don't think Georgia played their full game against Alabama. They didn't show all their cards.
They knew they were in the playoff.
So that kind of let's just help the SEC out, get us some more money for the entire conference. Take one for the team. And with Georgia, I also agree that this will be the first time in a long time. Jeez, why did my voice crack at the wrong time? This is the first time in a long time Georgia actually will win the national championship. I think that defense is really well. I don't think it's going to be effective with Dan Lanning primarily because I didn't know this until like 2 weeks ago. Will Muschamp was moved on field earlier in the season as a special teams coach.
He was?
So, yeah, because the special teams coach, Scott Cochran, actually left and Will Muschamp was promoted. So basically, you had 3 defensive coordinators coordinating a defense.
Is he going to be their new DC?
I'm 100% sure he's going to be the new DC down there. So
I wasn't sure if that was announced yet or not.
And also with the Dan Lanning reports, like if he went to Oregon, that kind of leads me to believe that he's been talking to Oregon for a little bit. So maybe also they'll be able to coordinate a lot better their defense for this game. So to me, I got Georgia being at Alabama and coming out on top for the first time since what Kodak, Polaroid pictures were a thing. So
Ronald Reagan. And
Nancy.
By way of that, Nancy was also in the White House. So
she was.
Yeah, she was. Holly was. Stacy was. Everyone was in that White House. And just like the White House, we had everyone in here. Guys, this was probably one of the more fun things I've spent 2 hours on in a very long time. I'm glad we got to do this. I'm glad we got some lively discussion. I'm glad I'm not Drake who has to edit this thing. So, guys, thanks for stopping by. This was our Bowl Spectacular for Locked On Seminoles. That's Drake. That's Danny. That's Dave. I'm Max. And this was Locked On Seminoles. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. All that. We'll see y'all soon. And we love you.
Take care, everybody.